Bledsoe was arrested.
Patrick Montgomery was in court.
Jonathan Manapa will stay in federal custody.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
Everyone, welcome to the show. So 27-year-old Florida man, Mason Courson, was seen on video pushing against and shoving other members of the mob into the police line inside of the lower West Terrace tunnel. So he wasn't pushing against the police directly, but he was pushing against other people, pushing them into the police. After a lengthy battle with the mob, the police successfully had forced everyone out, or at least to the mouth of the tunnel. And as the mob was still struggling with the police, Courson reached out and he grabbed at an officer's shield and his helmet. At some point during the battle, an officer must have dropped a baton because Courson was later seen holding the baton over his head. This was just outside of the tunnel. Sometime later, the situation started to escalate again. So everybody got pushed out, it kind of settled down, and then it just popped off again. There was another member of the mob who charged at the police line. This person grabbed an officer's baton. He ended up knocking the officer to the ground. Another member of the mob jumped over the railing and at that point started kicking this downed officer. Then that person struck a different officer with a crutch. That's when everything went nuts again. That's when everyone went ballistic. The mob started physically assaulting the police from all angles. They were throwing things at them, just all kinds of items, hitting them, kicking them, spraying them. At some point, another officer was dragged out of the tunnel and knocked down. And several members of the mob dragged him down the steps and into the crowd. You guys have probably seen the still shots of that assault. The officer was lying face down and he was unconscious, I believe, for a brief period of time. As he was lying there, completely helpless, Courson steps up with the baton and starts beating him with it. And then another one of Trump's terrorists came up and started hitting that same officer with a flagpole. So this guy was just brutally assaulted. So the officer eventually, I guess, came to. He somehow made it to his feet, or he was trying to make it to his feet, trying to get back to the police line. And Courson and another man pushed his head. So that caused him to stumble backwards, and then he fell back into the mob. So following that attack, Courson runs up the stairs. He attempts to grab the other downed officer, the first one who was knocked down, who was at the time trying to fight off other members of the mob. So Courson's just adding to this group, trying to get this guy. Now, eventually, Courson left. Following the Capitol attack, though, Courson shared photos of his trip on Instagram. And on December 14th of 2021, Courson was arrested, and in a superseding indictment, he was charged with 2 counts of civil disorder, 2 counts of assaulting officers, one of which included a deadly or dangerous weapon enhancement, disorderly conduct on restricted grounds with a deadly or dangerous weapon, and 2 counts of physical violence, one of which also included a deadly or dangerous weapon enhancement. In November of 2022, Courson pleaded guilty to 1 count of assaulting officers with a deadly or dangerous weapon, but he did so without a formal plea agreement in place for some reason. So Courson faced up to 20 years in prison, 3 years of probation, and $250,000 in fines. However, the prosecutor requested 87 months in prison, 3 years of probation, $2,000 in restitution, and a fine of $34,776. So that fine represents the amount of money that Courson has raised on a Give, Send, Go fundraising platform. He claims that, he's a, quote, true patriot, because, that's what patriots do. They beat defenseless police officers who are outnumbered thousands to one. They try to overturn legitimate elections for a lifelong con artist and liar who steals highly classified nuclear secrets. That's what patriots do, right? And Courson is someone who has been given chance after chance by our criminal justice system. According to the sentencing memo, Courson was arrested for the first time in 2013. That was for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. After completing a pretrial diversion program, the charges were dismissed. So no penalties. Having learned nothing from that, Courson was arrested again in 2015 for battery, assault on law enforcement officers, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and possession of marijuana. They said that Courson was highly intoxicated. He entered a bar. He assaulted the bar owner. Then a security guard got involved. He assaulted the security guard. Then a police officer responded to a call for help. The Courson then assaulted him. He also yelled a racial slur at the officer, and then he shoved his fist into that officer's face. He then pulled away and shoved the officer when the officer tried to arrest him, and then he took off. The officer fell backward, apparently, and Courson fled on foot. They eventually caught up with him, and then he again punched and kicked the arresting officer. So they finally had to set a canine loose on him. That was the only way they could get him under control. And then following his arrest, they took him to a hospital, and while he was at the hospital, he kicked a nurse. So for that violent string of events, Courson was given probation. And they said that he violated the terms of that probation multiple times. But, I just can't understand why these people keep committing crimes, why they just don't get it. That same year, 2015, Courson was arrested again for multiple counts of battery on law enforcement, also resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and drug possession. However, the prosecutor failed to secure a conviction in that case for some reason. And the government says that he has additional convictions for things like grand theft, loitering, DUI. So, as with his hero, Donald Trump, 2023 is the first time he's going to face actual consequences. So U.S. District Judge Randolph Contreras presided over Courson's case, and he's one of those Goldilocks judges, I call them, not too hard, not too soft, but in this case, he was not just right. I think he went way too easy on Courson. Judge Contreras sentenced Courson to 57 months in prison, 3 years of probation, and $2,000 in restitution. There was no mention also of a fine. So he either didn't impose a fine or it will be determined at a later date. But a lot of these judges have been giving them a pass on money that they've been raising. Given Courson's history of violence towards the police and how he's been given a do-over every single time, he absolutely deserved the full 87 months and then some. So, this is one of Marjorie Taylor Greene's so-called political prisoners. These dangerous people, this is where they belong, is in prison. He's one of the few that's been held since his arrest. And, she's over there boo-hoo-hooing over them. Anyway, guys, I will let you know when I hear more. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. It really helps to keep the show going. Love you guys. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.